Alright kids, we never really talked about video nasties on here before, have we? Let's change that.
Ident Investment Films. Maybe Enid could watch my latest Frederick North submission. Wanted a woman's eye on his film.
Censor is the feature film debut of Prano Bailey Bond. It stars Niamh Algar as Enid, a film censor working at the height of the video nasty crackdown in England in the 1980s. And Enid's job is to watch film after film of violent and explicit content and determine what needs to be cut in order to salvage the film and make it viewable to the public. And one specific film that she comes across during her job awakens some serious traumatic memories that Enid will have to unravel in order to uncover the missing memories from her childhood. So for those of you who don't know what a video nasty is, a bit of background. In the 1980s, Britain's government got very extreme with its censorship laws and began to really crack down on what was allowed to be shown to the public. There was a lot of concern about what kids were seeing on TV and how violent content was affecting reality. And the result was a wave of censorship and flat-out bans of certain films, and it resulted in several films never being released in the UK, some until very recently. And video nasties was the term that was coined for films with violent or offensive content that was deemed too explicit to show to the public. There's a lot of emphasis both in history and in the film itself about what will the children think, which is something we still hear now in our public discourse. And truthfully, it's insane. And Censor kind of acknowledges that, acknowledging that kids aren't really the issue of who's being affected by this stuff. It acknowledges that maybe the issue is adults who are afraid of this content because it holds up a mirror to something inside themselves that they are afraid of. And the result is a film that is incredibly stylish and very retro and downright chilling at times. It's a deep, unsettling dive into the psyche of somebody who watches this kind of content for work, someone who is already separately traumatized in spite of that. Enid suffered some serious childhood trauma before the events of the film, and it was so bad that she has repressed several of those memories. And that childhood trauma serves as her driving focus throughout the entire film. She's good at her job, and she loves her job. She prides herself in being that wall that exists between the absurdly violent, explicit content that people are making and what the public gets to see. But that job is very high pressure, especially with the media looking to sensationalize any sort of violence that happens in the real world as the result of these films. And all the while, Enid is still going to work and still watching more and more of this content, all the while simultaneously delving into her own repressed memories and trauma, and the result is not a good combination.
Someone's losing the plot.
Censor becomes this really weird, beautiful, surreal melding of fiction and reality as we watch Enid spiral further and further down this rabbit hole. She starts losing herself in these films, and that disconnect is shown in the coolest way, complete with bylighting, a really retro score, and an opening credit sequence that feels pulled straight out of the 80s, featuring footage from other, much more famous video nasties like Pieces or House by the Cemetery. Prano Bailey Bond really seems to understand the intricacies of what she's discussing here, with the violent sequences in the film simultaneously feeling low budget in emulation of the things that they're paying homage to, while simultaneously feeling more real in nature because of the low budget. Niamh Algar gives a fantastic performance here, presenting the slow decline of Enid's grasp on reality beautifully, and with such confidence that it occurs in a way that feels completely genuine and not at all separate from reality. She's clearly struggling with this trauma and the gaps in her memory, and her job is not doing her any favors. Her performance really is the centerpiece here, holding the entire film together, even when the third act rolls around and things start to get a little insane. It's not that the third act is bad, don't get me wrong, it's just it's a little less cohesive than I would have liked. Some more clarity on the reality of Enid's trauma would have been nice. All the context clues are there, but I would have liked at least a little bit more just to paint the full picture of what happened in the past. It's just a bit too vague for my liking, but that being said, the actual end sequence of this film, the final 3 minutes or so, is incredibly well done, to the point where I was completely aghast. It's brilliantly stylized so as to be explicitly clear as to what it's conveying, so much so that I would call it chilling. I got full-body goosebumps several times throughout this sequence, and the final shot of the film had me cringing into my couch because it's just so unnerving. It's wildly unsettling. I applaud everyone who had a hand in making it happen. All of my minor gripes with the third act, which aren't really gripes, because ultimately the third act is doing exactly what it's intending to do. I'm trying to be as spoiler-free as possible here, and Prano Bailey Bond does know what she's going for here, and it's very clear, and she nails it stylistically. What Censor succeeds in, ultimately, is providing an interesting homage to the video nasties of before in a way that's wholly unique to this type of story. It's a film that forces us to look at the people who pride themselves in being the wall between what people are allowed to see and not, the MPAA, for example. And it makes us wonder if the reason these people are so adamantly anti-horror is because it holds up a mirror to something that they've maybe repressed or are afraid of in themselves. Something to think about. Big recommend. Definitely check it out. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, click down there, like, comment, subscribe. You could be like any of these cool people right here. Check me out on Patreon if you're interested in that. I have my feature film, Lilith, dropping on July 9th on VOD, if anyone's curious. And also, I'm going into production on my new short film, Diviner, the following day. So it's going to be a crazy few weeks. If any of you are interested in following along and seeing all the fun that comes along with those things, check me out on Patreon. There's going to be some cool content. And yeah, thank you again for watching. I will see you all very soon.